In this module we want to look at the item analysis report that's available in NAPLAN, and you could find equivalent information in VCE examiners reports where we look at the percentage of students who chose correct and incorrect answer options on each test. So just looking quickly at the item analysis report, it's in the list of available reports, and when we start to look at its components, the first column gives you the number of the particular question that's being looked at. The second column indicates what the correct answer was for that item. The third indicates the curriculum area that's being addressed. And then over on the other side there'll be a short description of the particular skill being assessed. The middle columns tell us the percentage that was correct for the nation, the state, and the particular group that you're looking at, your school cohort or a particular class, depending what's been selected. Question is, how did you go in relation to the state? If you got the state result was 85% correct and your school only had 80% correct, would you be worried? Perhaps you mightn't be, because you'd think, well, most kids have done pretty well on this item. On the other hand, you might be thinking, that's quite a bit less than the state, it must have been an easy question, I might be concerned. How do we really make those similar and different judgments? Let's think about that for a moment. If you had 20 students sitting a test, and we're thinking about whether plus or minus 5% would be considered similar or different to the state, we can think, okay, if I had 20 students sitting, then if I had just 2 students who were incorrect, that would be 90% correct. 3 students incorrect for 85%, 4 students for 80%. So just 1 student here or there is giving us a difference of 5%. 1 student here or there on a test done once on one day of the year, is that really a big enough difference to be paying attention to? Let's think, however, if we had a bigger group of students, so we had 400 students at that year level at our school sitting the test, then we'd see that a difference of 5% would be 20 students, or almost a whole class, who were getting that question incorrect. So it's a decision you have to make for your school and for your situation about the percentage that you consider similar or different to the state, and that's going to depend on the number of students you've got sitting the test and on your priorities. What smaller difference are you going to be able to pay attention to this year? We'd suggest that you go through your results with a highlighter and mark those that are very different from the state. Choose a cheerful colour for above the state and perhaps a cool colour for below the state, and leave the ones that are similar just white blank. This will allow you to have a look at the patterns in what you're seeing then. Was there a similarity in the types of questions where you're above the state, or a similarity in the types where you're below the state? You can go back and examine these questions in more detail. Above the state, to think about what your strength is. For below the state, to examine this. You can look to see which responses your students chose and which ones were most commonly chosen at the state and national levels. This helps you to see what the common misconceptions are and whether your students are also exhibiting those problem thinking patterns. You'll need then, if you can, to go back and look at the actual test to consider what that distractor was that the students chose, the ones who were incorrect, and you can look to see what particular thinking might be involved that meant they chose that particular incorrect answer. This will help you think about appropriate questions or teaching strategies that you might need to focus on explicitly next time that topic's taught. So we're looking for, it might be numeracy, and looking for the items where the percentage correct was very different from the state, or where a large proportion of students chose a wrong or distracting answer. Could be that it was a hard item, or there was a problem with the item, but you'll tell by comparing your results with those of the state. Looking for any obvious commonalities in those items to see whether they're in the same topic area or not. So when we're planning, we want to think about what percentage similar or difference we're going to focus on. Then think about looking for strengths. What is it in those results that you can see that you might capitalise on, something that might be able to be transferred for use in another area of your teaching? Then to consider the weaknesses and how these might be addressed. You can think about these by question and consider explicit teaching points that could be made next time that material is taught. Or by curriculum area, to consider the order of teaching of topics in the year and the importance and emphasis and time allocated to each topic. As we think through these reports, they can inform our planning for programs and for class teaching to help our students progress forward in their learning.